Climb aboard the dragon ship. We're going to talk about the real power of the shield wall.
Through the white thunderstorms, we ride on the back of our truckers in a fearless ride. Sons of gold, hearts made of fire, conquering lands, fueling our desire. Soaring engines and lightning in our eyes, united we stand. Our strength won't compromise. From the east to the west, we stand on every road. Beneath open skies, the promised land where our spirits arise. We battle the storms and tides of the sea. Now we've arrived in the land we're meant to be.
All right, welcome in, gentlemen. Welcome aboard the dragon ship. Yep, today we're going to be talking about the red pill shield wall, right? Why it actually matters and what it does to help society. So to start out, kind of what an inspiration, I guess, pointing to why the shield wall is necessary. We're gonna play a political ad that just aired recently. I don't remember exactly when this aired. But Huds, yeah, go ahead and play this ad, and everybody take in the glory of this ad.
I'm a man.
I'm a man.
I'm a man, man.
And I'm man enough.
I'm man enough to enjoy a barrel-proof bourbon.
Neat.
Man enough to cook my steak rare.
Man enough to deadlift 500, then braid the out of my daughter's hair.
You think I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast. I ain't afraid of bears.
That's what bear hugs are for.
I'll tell you another thing I sure as shit am not afraid of. Women.
I'm not afraid of women.
I'm not afraid of women.
They want to control their bodies? I say go for it.
They want to use IVF to start a family? I'm not afraid of families.
They want to be childless cat ladies?
Have all the cats you want.
Woman wants to be president?
Well, I hope she has the guts to look me right in the eye and accept my full-throated endorsement.
Because I'm man enough to support women.
Man enough to know what kind of donuts I like.
Man enough to admit I'm lost, even when I refuse to ask for directions. Man enough to not ban young women from reading Little Women. Or one of those pants books that the sisters like.
I'm man enough to raw dog a flight. It sucked. Not worth it.
I'm man enough to be emotional in front of my wife.
In front of my kids.
In front of my horse.
I'm man enough to tell you that I cry at Love Actually.
Good Will Hunting.
West Side Story.
That and Predator.
And I'm sick of so-called men domineering, belittling, and controlling women just so they can feel more powerful.
That's not how my mama raised me. I love women.
I love women who support their families.
Women who decide not to have families.
Women who take charge.
And I'm man enough to help them win.
Dude, like for real? I thought, I swear to God.
That is not satire. That is a real ad.
I thought it was satire. Like,
That
I thought it was Babylon
that's
B.
not gonna-
When John was playing it, I thought it was Babylon B, but it wasn't.
That's not gonna get you laid, guys.
Full-throated endorsement.
Mm-hmm. The
Yeah,
jokes
that's-
write themselves.
I mean, the
Eating,
guy
even
said
eating carburetors for breakfast. I'm like,
Oh,
with
he
that kind
ate
of
for
mass, I'm
breakfast.
sure you do, sir.
he ate the car for breakfast.
Those got to be the kind of people that banned your article, Paul, when you promoted our book, and got you deleted from eWire. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yep. Those pussies.
You notice that it changed the dynamic, and if you listen to the last speeches that are out there, they immediately looked at their polling and changed everything to male versus female at this point. You'd absolutely hear it in Skamala's speech recently. And you can see that's the direction they're going. Is going to go that way.
Well, Obama just made a speech
Mhm.
like shaming black men.
Yes, they did.
Well-
They moved it that way.
And the ad's not even true. Donald Trump supports IVF.
Yep. That's,
Yeah,
so once
you're
again,
right.
they're just going to lie. And so this leads up to the first question for the show, because I ran it through ChatGPT for some suggestions. First question it suggested is, how does the red pill philosophy help, and even though it's not a philosophy, individuals recognize and resist manipulative social and political narratives in today's society? And as we're seeing, we're automatically pointing out how it does that. We're recognizing certain things. Oh, this guy's telling us that, he's a real man, but yet he can't even control the calories he puts in his face. Right. And a lot of these other guys, they're saying these same tropes over and over again. He says that he's man enough to admit he's lost, but yet he's not man enough to ask for directions. It's like, even though I didn't ask for directions, it's like, listen to the cope in that. Right. So it's just like, that shows that you're a weak fool of an individual, that you would even say this in a political ad. So it's either staged, it's obviously either written for him, or if this is what he actually thinks, this is what a lot of guys think. And that's bullshit.
What's up with pickup truck guy? He
had his crossed legs, very feminine.
Then he had his hand on his hips, like, this is my truck.
Yeah, very contrived.
It's so ingrained in our culture right now, that kind of narrative. That's one of the things that I really am pointing out in my book, is that a lot of guys have that programming because of commercials like that, because of societal pressure to, put women on pedestals and be pro-woman and let's all act like fucking women here, right? I've been in a series of meetings lately because I recently hired a new business coach, and I've been in a lot of group calls with other guys that are in these coaching programs. These guys can't even refer to their wives as wives. It's always my partner this, my partner that, my partner this. I'm like, when the fuck did we stop calling our wives wives?
I think that's disrespectful. I mean,
yeah, it's a downgrade. She's demoted to partner.
Yeah, it's just, that's where our culture is now, and it's a fucking travesty, and I can't unsee it. Once you learn the stuff, once you see it, you can't unsee it, and it's fucking disgusting.
And once you start living it too, and you make it a part of your life, it just becomes habit. The gal I was dating a little while back, I would call her my woman in front of other people out in public. And the first couple of times I did it, she was just kind of like, what is this? But then she got used to it. And then from then on out, ever since I would start calling her my woman, she would grab and squeeze my thigh every time I did it. So she grew to like it. Yeah, exactly. It just becomes instinct.
It's like what he said there at the end about, men domineering women to make themselves, feel more powerful. It's just like, no, that's not at all what it is. Women, if they don't like you calling them their woman, that means she's not your woman. That's the bottom line, because any woman that's with a man that she loves, admires, and respects is going to want to be owned by him, more or less. Not literally, but metaphorically. She wants you to be possessive of her. She wants you to mate guard her, because that shows you have genuine burning desire for her, right? That you actually want to protect her from going out and getting tempted by other men, not wanting her to go out to the club. Once again,
or getting hurt.
And give her... Yeah, you can't give her that, well, you have to do it this way, like Donovan Sharp always says. You give her the option. Well, you can do that, but I won't be here when you get back. And that's not you lording power or trying to domineer the woman. That's you holding a healthy boundary with another individual. That's something that's good for mental health.
There's a big difference. I talk about it in my book too. There's a big difference between having a dominant masculine presence and being domineering. We're not, like you said, Taro, we're not advocating for men to be domineering dickheads. We're teaching guys to set the tone and lead in all areas of their life, but particularly in relationships. And you could do that without being a domineering dickhead.
Yes,
controlling versus in control.
Exactly.
Hey, can I talk to the title just for a moment? I put some stuff together here to kind of preface. The shield wall. The red pill is the shield wall for society. And the reason that it is because I know that our enemies and many in the media want to call us a philosophy or even a movement. We all know better, and there are so many that have done this. We predicted a couple of years ago on the year-end show. They don't understand what we actually are. And they base the fact that we're a philosophy on a lot of parallels that run between our objective reality and how we use rationality with Nietzsche and Schopenhauer, some of the first red pill guys that are out there that recognize the difference between men and women, and actually the interactions of society and why objective reality was so important. I mean, realism came out of it, idealism came out of it, existentialism came out of it, ultimately objectivism came out of it. But, you know, because of those philosophers, and that some of our stuff is actually rooted in those philosophers, particularly when it comes to understanding that nobody's coming to rescue us, embracing our dark side because nature has given it to us, and embracing the fact that those are opportunities for us to become the ultimate man by conquering the narrative inside. Those sort of things are really important. And when other men see us doing these things, they want to grab a shield off of the dragon ship and join the shield wall, because that makes us strong. And what did Nietzsche say about weak men? They will be the downfall of society. We're witnessing that happen in the last 50 years. So that's the premise for the title of the shield wall, which is very relevant in military tactics of keeping the enemy out and also moving forward and conquering ground, and thereby, you know, making things better. So the red pill, in my opinion, is the shield wall to protect society. Unfortunately, we're going to get attacked by people that we actually like, that don't like the fact that we're a praxeology and not a philosophy. Hence the reason we have a loose treaty with the Christ pillars out there. They really would like us to be the bad guy, and they're always lauding those red pill guys. But you know what? The left does too. And it's because they want us to be an opposing religion, because it actually helps them induce fear into their followers, which, you know, makes them very strong and loyal and blindly follow different paths. You know, being a red pillar and being in that shield wall means you have to decide for yourself. And sometimes you're going to disagree with the guy standing next to you. Hey, I don't agree with Schopenhauer on everything. I don't agree with Nietzsche on everything. I don't agree with Rollo on everything. But you know what? I have enough of that mental clarity to say, what is the objective reality? What is actually useful for me? And I can actually embrace my dark side, and I can embrace the reality that I'm only here for a moment. So my existence is here. And I really like that term that Nietzsche used, will to power. You know, that's really all that matters, not the pursuit of happiness, excellence, any of that stuff. He was touching on, you know, the observer effect to change reality around you by using this here first. And that's what he meant by the overman. And so I like that. And I see that all throughout the red pill more than just about anywhere else. And now we're calling it the men's self-help space. These books that we're producing actually delve into the hows, the whys, and how to. I love that, because when we do that, we move beyond the troubles that all of us have, which is the or problem, which it's black and white, it's on and off. We have to move past that. There's way more than just two. Everybody wants to just be good or evil. It's not that. It's much more than that. And you will see, you know, self-enlightenment. And that is so useful to a man. His life changes immediately. He solves his problems. The guys that are writing these book series all understand that, and I appreciate them all. Dragons forever, forever dragons.
Yes, sir. And that's why I try to, what you talked about there, when they say that it's a philosophy, even ChatGPT said it's a philosophy rather than a praxeology. Why do they say this? It's a straw man.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you can say it's more or less the more sophisticated version. I know you are, but what am I? Because if we try to criticize some of these mental models, these bad mental models, saying, hey, the praxeology shows that this does not work, they're like, oh, no, that's just a religious belief. Oh, that's just your opinion. That's just your truth. My truth is this truth. And they try to take away from the universal truth that exists in a lot of things. There's a reason why people sit there and say, oh, well, the Bible's actually red pill. Oh, well, this literature is actually red pill. No, what you're recognizing is universal truths.
Yes.
We're not the first to notice these universal truths about human nature, but we are the ones that cut through the bullshit and say, hey, this is the observation. This is the praxeology. When you form the shield wall, you don't step out of line. First rule of the shield wall, you don't step out of the line unless you fall. And if somebody falls, another brother has to take your place to hold the line. If you don't hold the line, the entire line falls. And that's where the weak men that can't hold up the shield end up, like you said, costing battles and costing wars, because they don't have the mental or physical fortitude to be able to do that. And this, it means literally, but also metaphorically. as you see in the commercial. You think those guys are warriors that are going to be able to hold the line? No, they're going to, put the shield down in a row and say, here's a path for you, my lady.
Oh, I love it, Tarl, because that is kind of what the whole, essential skill of a masculine presence is about, is to push this forward and make sure those men are trained. And I'm going to say trained because in the mental models, to be strong and durable, there's a lot on resilience here too. And when you realize, the emotional durability and the acceptance of suffering as an opportunity.
That one guy can hold the line if he lies down.
Yeah. So I think that's important. Absolutely.
All right, let's go around the horn, let other guys say so. So we'll start with you, AJ. What are your thoughts? How does the red pill, philosophy help individuals recognize and resist manipulative narratives like the one we just witnessed in that commercial?
I would say go along the lines of it helps us start thinking for ourselves, because it's the toolbox. Figure out which tools work for you, which tools don't. Kind of mental model that we talk about. So use what works, ditch what doesn't. Now you start figuring out, because you had to do all that, you can start thinking for yourself. You're like, okay, what's going on here? That doesn't make sense. Let me go research it some more. So, and they don't like the idea of guys who are capable of critical thought these days. That's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, how about you, Huds?
What was the question?
Question is, ways that you see the red pill quote philosophy is helping individuals recognize and resist the manipulative social and political narratives today.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, dude, it's crazy. Like, so with my girlfriend's brother is not only a Harris supporter, but he actually volunteers every week and is calling people to try and get their vote. And I've converted her. I wouldn't say converted. We just use critical thought to actually look at everything, look at some of the debates, look at some of the discussions, and then it's like, okay, well, this is not making sense, and it's like the lesser of two evils to go towards Trump. So when it comes to that, and you know what, I get in so much trouble for this, and Glenn and I have fought on it. I'm sure you guys aren't going to like it either, but we don't have to derail. Technically, a praxeology is a philosophy. It's just being more specific on exactly what form. So when you have this information, it really is that's why the Matrix was a perfect example of it, to open your eyes and actually critically think. When you have these skills, it helps you navigate the world because you can see the bullshit. Before you didn't really see bullshit, you just kind of listen, especially as you're growing up. You listen to others, teachers, your family on what the world is and how to live in the world. And it really challenges you to look at the actions of others so that you can best position yourself on, I guess, this chessboard called life to be as successful and as happy as possible. So I think that understanding it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be hardcore meathead red pill guy and live and die by red pill. But to understand it is going to equip you in far more ways than you could ever expect. I know for me, standing up for myself in certain things that were going on with work and certain things in certain relationships, it just works. It's just crazy, but it just works because it really is that focused look on human behavior. And then how do you act in relation to human behavior?
Oh, I love that. And I think that we get tagged with the philosophy. I understand how it's written. And if you do that and apply it to what we have done in this space as a whole, they can say that. But when we talk about a praxeology, the actual definition is the studies in human behavior and interactions, particularly as we believe, or as praxeology would say, is that all behavior is intentional. And we look at it as it is without imposing moral judgments.
Yeah.
As soon as you apply moral judgments, you now have a philosophy.
Yeah, and what Huds you described there, that's an example of a fogging tactic, right? When the straw man doesn't work, then they're going to try and say, well, you're actually a branch of philosophy. And it's like, yes, technically, that the praxeology is a branch of philosophy, but a branch of philosophy based on what? Actual scientific observations. using scientific method, like Thor said, to remove judgment and just trying to compile the data and be like, well, this is what human beings are actually doing rather than what they say they're going to do. Because as we always say, judge what people do, not just what they say. You need both, right? My dad always taught me, if you want to know if you're dealing with a bullshitter, son, take a look at their actions and take a look at their words and see if they match. The closer they match, the less chance you're dealing with a bullshitter. The more they don't match, you might be dealing with a bullshitter.
Yeah, and a lot of red pill influencers, not slamming them all, but they will delve into that virtue and the difference between good and evil, right and wrong, inside of their rant about red pill. It gets views, and that changes it to a philosophy for sure. Instead of isolating that out of it and accepting the bad with the good. So accepting, and we all struggle with, is accepting female behavior as it is. It's their nature, and that's okay. Once you have that acceptance, now you understand why we would call it a praxology, which is those observations, objective reality versus a narrative that's going to remove the virtue signaling and the moral assignments to whatever you're looking at. Now what you have remaining is you have behaviors that result in certain outcomes. That is more probabilistic to be correct, and you can base decisions and actual interactions on it, and you're probably going to have much more success doing that if you inject good and evil and right and wrong, and now you have a bit of this conflict outside of what you were trying to do. I find that a lot of the red pill creators get seduced by that, because calling out the red pill as having certain morals or degrading other morals based on the red pill, that's wrong too. But it gets you views, it gets you controversy, and of course it's encouraged. I can't wait till the election's over. It's really going to ramp up Huds with they went gender on this one. They have to go gender. They have to through the rest of this. It has to be about male, female at this point.
Well, yeah, because the stats are rolling in, and Gen Z men are leaning right by an extra 20%.
And a huge margins of black men too are marching that way. And it's pulling back on the female side. So you'll see it go even more about misogyny. There won't be any misandry. It's all going to be about misogyny and the history of the patriarchy. You'll see.
Oh, there'll be misandry, but they won't acknowledge it.
Right. So yeah, it really is empirical observation over ideals when you look at red pill at its core, when you're trying to practice these as a praxology. But we definitely step into the philosophic side, because we start assigning. I mean, look at what the Christosphere does with us. Who's that guy with the beard that did What About Women? Oh, they get the descriptions right, but they get the prescriptions wrong. We are really not about the prescriptions. We're about the statements of what works, what's useful. That's rule 0. It's up to you.
Well,
and,
Thor,
yeah.
The thing that scares so many of these guys is that we always give the car keys back over to the guys. Like, you're driving your car. We're not driving the car for you. You have to come up with what you think is morally right based on evidence. Right? Because that's where, we get a lot of criticism in this space, especially from tradcons. Are going like, well, your philosophy is taking away from the moral philosophy of the Bible, and that's degrading society. And it's just like, but the thing is, society was ran by the Bible for how many years, and we got here.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Oh, you're going to say it's because of guys like us, when we're sitting there trying to cut through all the lies that people stack on, adding other pill names and derivative pill names to try to take away the point of the metaphor, right? The point of the metaphor is uncomfortable truth versus comforting lies. And they always distort it. People always add their own biases on top, and that makes it something that it's not. It creates a distortion. It's the game of telephone.
Yeah.
But they need someone to tell them how to live their lives, because they're afraid to grab their own life by the balls and take full responsibility for the outcomes of their own decisions. So they get, red pill information like, girls don't want a guy who cheats, but they love a man who can cheat. And then that goes into their head, and they're like, wait, but if I cheat, more women will like me? but what happens if I cheat and their wires get crossed and their head explodes? They're like, but I don't. Somebody tell me what to do. And then one guy will be like, yeah, go out to the bunny ranch and bang 50 hookers. And then the white pill guy will be like, no, never cheat on your wife whatsoever. Don't even talk to other women. Don't even look at other women.
Yeah, and we destroy their mental models a lot of times because we say one thing and then we say another. And most men aren't really good at that cognitive dissonance of holding, two opposing viewpoints. But as you get better, you can. But we'll say stuff like this, we'll tell the guys, you should be the kind of guy that, you could cheat and this and that. But, we have a huge group of media and religion that's telling the guys, even think about another woman or looking at that thigh gap, you are cheating. What does that do to their mental model? I mean, they're a natural born human male. They start that problem solving when they see a female body, and it is part of nature. And to deny it and then tell them how bad they are, that's casting the moral aspersion on them. And that destroys mental models and makes it very difficult. That's why we use the analogy of the red pill in the Matrix. Look, open your eyes. Don't listen to those mental models, and that's just one example, that's commonly used. You're a bad man because you thought about another woman. That is not correct. No way. You're just accepting of your nature, the good and the bad. And that's what will allow you to actually excel at this and use this information as it was meant to be given, which is it's useful to you. And there was a chat where somebody said, the red pill is all about shaming women is what people think. And that is incorrect. You know that the red pill is about lifting women up on the rising tide. They all want a dominant masculine presence in their life. And that's not domineering. You get the right man. She knows he has the vibe. They all talk about finding the right guy. For the right guy, I'll be feminine. I mean, you can hear this all over the place. It's an extreme desire. And it comes from nature. So when you acquire this knowledge and you understand her nature and your own nature, and you've accepted your good and your bad, that's when you move to the next level with this. And she's actually uplifted and proud to be on your dragon ship. She wants to be there. And that's really good. A lot of guys they get complacent with it, don't understand that. By learning this information and applying it without being a dick, just slowly let it bleed into your mental model and your narrative, they're actually better off, much, much better off, and that's kind of nice. And some women actually run into this information on their own, and they don't think it's about bashing women. I'll tell you a story about that some other time.
Go ahead, Laurent.
One thing that I wanted to come back on, I want to vigorously disagree with Tal, and respectfully, of course. He introduced the notion of moral. One thing that struck me with the red pill is that it's not about moral. There's no will. I mean, people who take the moral ascendance actually miss the point, I believe. What I believe it is about effectiveness. We do what works. We do what is. And it's amoral. As in, it's a void of the concept of moral. This, if you do that, or if you look at the world this way, this is how it works. It's not immoral, which means that it's against the moral. It's amoral. It's like the market, basically. The market is not good. It's not bad. It's void of the concept of moral. This is what human nature is all about. So introducing the concept of moral is something that changes over the centuries, that changes with society. At the moment, for instance, if you say anything wrong, oh, you're racist, you're bigot, you're fair, blah, 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 blah. I mean, the whole word soup, and they try to impose a moral code which actually doesn't work. Whereas my interpretation, at least personal interpretation of the red pill, is that it's effective. It works. It's not necessarily pleasant. It's not necessarily moral, but this is how the world works. Example, you were talking about cheating. Women love bad boys. It's in their hard wiring. Well, okay, cool. Now that you get it, it's not moral, it's amoral. Even though they say, no, I want a good guy, but they will always fall for the bad boy with a different name each time. Does it make sense?
Yeah, that was actually kind of my point, is that guys, they want you to tell them how to feel about what the morality is. And that's the thing. It's not about morality. if you apply morality to it, like these TradCon guys, I tell them, yo, if you don't want to bang a bunch of bitches, if you don't want to be hitting on women and stuff like that, like you can get away with that. You can do things that show social proof with your woman when you're out and about. But you have to understand it's going to be more difficult for her to know that you could cheat, and for her to, you know, feel like she's got that pre-selection, that guy that's pre-selected by other women, the man that other men want to be and other women want to fuck. That's what they need to know. As long as there's a couple of them, it feeds their hypergamous brain going like, hey, this guy, he kind of gets it. So I'm happy because he understands these things. If I was with a guy that didn't, I would value him less. And that's where a lot of guys get frustrated, because they think, oh, well, she should value me despite my lack of action, despite my lack of effort.
Because I'm a good guy.
Yeah. So, but a lot of guys definitely, that takes a little bit of mental work. I think what a lot of guys, I mean, we've run into this too. They'd rather climb aboard the Jesus microbus headed out to, you know, the commune, instead of, you know, jump into the F1 McLaren with the rest of us. You know, takes a little different mental approach.
Oh, well, I mean, they're not jumping into an F1 McLaren with the rest of us. They're jumping into their own F1 McLaren, and they're expected to keep up and live dangerously, and they don't want to.
No, they'd rather climb aboard that microbus, that Jesus microbus, because it gives them the excuse, right? Hey, it's my fault if I'm not.
It absolves responsibility a lot.
Exactly,
of the time.
And then they can play victim.
Exactly, because then when it doesn't work out, if you took accountability, you've got nobody to blame but yourself, and that feels bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Viking, to kind of answer the question that you were starting with, I got to thinking as we were here today, and I think we're in a point in time in history where maybe the red pill isn't the best analogy anymore. Maybe the Matrix isn't the best analogy. I think we have a more accurate one, and it's the sunglasses from They Live.
I love that show.
And it is, if you haven't watched it, watch it tonight. It's perfect for Halloween. Watch it. But basically, the main character is living his life and everything looks fine, but then he puts on these secret glasses and he sees the subliminal messaging printed in black and white all around him, and they're actually being controlled by an outside force. I don't want to give too much away, but basically we get to a point where when we start integrating this knowledge into our life, and instead of learning, now we start to become, and instead of acting like the guy, we become the guy, we become the game, as Rollo would say. Eventually, as it becomes a part of us, I hate using this expression for men, but there's really no other way to put it. When we see an ad like we showed at the beginning of the show, an ad like that, men like that actually give us the ick, for lack of a better expression. A lazy, weak, soft, more mentally than physically, because there was a jacked guy there in the commercial, but just kind of like that mental squishy softness, where like to take any form of leadership and authority over one's own life is just met with just this fluffy disgust. It makes us like almost cringe. So like when we cringe, when men get the ick, it's just like, get that thing away from me, because he is dangerous, and if he gets too close to me, he'll actually become like a weak link in the chain, in my own shield wall. If we let a guy like that into the shield wall, he will buckle and he will break, either at the first sign of trouble or the first sign of a good pair of tits, and it's gonna fuck the rest of us over.
Yeah, the thing is, in a battle, I would be more willing to take somebody who's physically weak over somebody who's mentally weak. Because somebody who's physically weak could still have the willpower to persevere and overcome. But the person who is mentally weak, doesn't matter how strong they are, they will buckle at the first chance of fucking danger coming around the corner. They're going to run. They're going to shit themselves. They're going to drop their equipment. They're not going to know how to respond.
Paul, I need a new sound drop.
You need a new sound drop?
I do. We need one for here. And here's what it is. I'm not going to give it away. But in that movie, there's 2 sound drops. That movie, They Live. When the main character puts his sunglasses on inside of a Bank of America,
Oh yeah,
And
the chew bubblegum one.
That is one. I like that, and we should have that. But the one that's really impressive that comes before that one is the one I'm talking about. One lady grabs her walkie-talkie and starts screaming into it. That's concealed in a watch in her purse. And starts screaming into it. I got one that can see. I got one that can see.
Oh yeah, yep.
Here's the parallel to your media now and the attacks.
That is perfect.
Yeah. Roddy Piper is
see.
the main character. He plays the main character in that. And,
Yep. And here's the line too. This is actually from Duke Nukem, but here's the line.
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I am all out of gum.
And
Now,
Ronnie
that comes right
improvised
after
that line in the movie.
Comes right after that line when that lady is shocked and looking around and like he has the glasses on. He could see all of it. See what's going on with these elites. And she starts screaming for help. I got one that can see. I got one that can see. There's your parallel to the red pill.
All right. And we do got a super chat here, so we'll throw this up on screen from Siege D.
Siege D with the $10 super chat. We got the war horn ready?
Yeah. Oh, nope. We're offline. Sorry.
I can get it. Hold on. Yeah.
I need a copy of that soundbite. I'll just put it on my soundboard.
Okay.
And because of that, Duke Nukem earlier, I haven't done this one before. Let's see how good I can do. Damn, where's Wraith? Well, at least that jabroni Paul is here. I bought Wraith's frame book, along with 2 Everything I Wish I Knew When I Was 18 books to give to 2 of my high school senior friends.
Hell yeah. My man knows how to pick good books.
Yes, sir. All right. And
I
think
can't do
those are
Duke
the super chat.
Nukem.
Yep.
I can't.
That
The
was pretty
votes are
good.
in. The votes are. I didn't like it. I was not pleased with myself.
You didn't hit the low tone quite there. You didn't quite hit the mark, but that's actually pretty good. And I see where you could actually do it. So don't be afraid. All right. So I guess moving on to the next question. Let's see, just to try to keep things on topic. In what ways does embracing the quote red pill of uncomfortable truths contribute to the prevention of authoritarian control over personal freedoms? So we'll go around the horn. Since it's your topic, Thor, we'll start with you. Sure, you got something for this.
It's because you can analyze societal structures, norms, and expectations. When you do that, you can make more informed decisions against your narrative or your inner monologue based on, all that you had gathered together before. And it's kind of like being able to step back and zoom out. So that gives you a chance to make very good decisions and actually make decisions about how you want to engage in a conversation versus an argument. We really communicate today via argument and debate, which is not really a good way. We call it conversation, but if you notice, it's not. So, that's kind of my thoughts on it. It provides practical strategies for us, really, to navigate society and, relational conduct.
All right. Paul, your thoughts?
What's the question again?
Question is, in what ways does embracing the uncomfortable truths of the red pill contribute to prevention of authoritarian control over personal freedoms?
Well, I think it sort of goes back to the concept that no one's coming to save you, right? Everything, it's up to you how you want to live your life. What you have to figure out what you want in life. And what you'll find is that what the authoritarians are trying to do is trying to sort of engage your emotions to make you feel like you can't do it on your own and you need them somehow. And the red pill shines a light on that and says, no, they're not going to help you. They're in it for their own gain. They'll screw you over to get what they need, and you can't rely on them and you can't rely on anyone else. You have to take accountability for your own life.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good one, Paul.
Yep.
And the red pill really allows you to do it. Yeah.
Right. You got one on that? Yeah.
Yes.
Going around the horn.
It reminded me of, I think it's Schopenhauer. He said, hard times, no, about weak men, weak times, and hard times make good times make men weak, and then weak men make hard times, and then hard times make strong men. So about this, it's actually quite important to remain critical in the face of, because we're all getting numb. If we look at the media, for instance, the mainstream media, they all copy and paste. It's always the same template. And there's a couple of guys who go around and copy the same headlines from the media. And we're just getting numb, like in the Pink Floyd, The Wall. So remaining critical, remaining awake is very important for us, and also for the people in our network, which is our son, our friends, our colleagues. It's important to remain awake, to become awake. Unfortunately, not everybody wants to be awake. Not everybody wants to put on the glasses. Not everybody wants to see beyond the matrix because it's comfortable. Being in the matrix is comfortable. The truth is not necessarily comfortable. The red pill is not supposed to feel good. It's a suppository.
That it is.
Yep.
It is, and both Schopenhauer and Nietzsche. Schopenhauer was his kind of his mentor at a distance, but they both advocated embracing that darkness and acknowledging that fact that, you know, life is suffering and experience and pain creates the wisdom or that inner narrative in which, you know, the guys had different names for it, will to power, all that sort of stuff, but it gave self-enlightenment. And that gave them the tools to navigate, particularly when it comes to, like you said, society's crushing weight of the stuff around you. You can not let that stuff get to you. But if you watch news all the time, the negativity does have an impact. It's just the law of attraction. So that would be my caution. I like what Laurent said.
Yep. Mike, your thoughts?
Oh boy, do I have a lot, but I'll keep it condensed. I can speak from experience where it has definitely helped me relax because I stopped worrying about the world and I only concern myself with my circle. Myself, my friends, my family. That's it. And it allows me to very, very easily, like what I said earlier about when these things become instinct, then you don't even have to think anymore. You just know. And so when you see an ad or you start talking to somebody who's very, very plugged in, you don't even have to think about you don't have to, it's kind of like Donovan Sharp's Womanese. You don't have to take the time to process anymore. You get the subtitles in your own head in real time. And it allows you to make better decisions. And it allows you to maneuver in such a way to preserve yourself and those that you care about. If we talk about, quote unquote, saving the West, that's only possible if, I think it's like, what, between 25 and 33% of the population rebels, basically. It takes a pretty big chunk to turn things around, and everyone needs to be in lockstep and have the same mission. That's never going to happen. Like Rolo says, the pendulum will not swing. But you can look after yourself. You can look after yourself. You can look after your friends and family. And by living through example, men like Thor, men like Paul, men like Donovan, by living through example, then those around you look at how you live your life. You don't even have to say a word. Just by living your life that way, others will look at you and be like, I want to be like that. And if they really care, they will ask you, how did you do that? How did you live this life like this? Your marriage is incredible. Your kids are so well behaved. Dude, you're making all this money. Dude, how'd you afford that car? How'd you do this? How'd you do that? Just by you not saying a word and living your life with the knowledge, because you've arranged your life with that knowledge in mind to preserve the circle that's important to you, rather than go out and trying to change the world. You go out and try to change the world with a bullhorn. Doesn't matter how good your intentions are, you're just going to piss everybody off. That's why we can't stand these protesters who block traffic and make us show up to work late, because it doesn't matter what their message is. If you piss everybody off, you actually make them want to avoid what it is you're fighting for just by the way you act.
Yep. By trying to force the truth onto others, they resist it then. And that's actually a good springboard for this super chat.
Is that P-I or P-L? We'll just call you Pi. With a $5 super chat.
Here's an Odin. Found it. Oh, yes.
I don't know why you peeps tolerate an elite that hate you. It pretty obvious. Well, what do you mean by tolerate?
Yeah, and who is he talking about?
He's not talking to us. He's talking to people in general, the average American, or average person, I guess.
Well, and then my response to that would be, what is your definition of tolerate in this context? Because, like, when it comes to elites like what? Jeff Bezos, right? How many of us have ordered something from Amazon?
Of course.
Like literally every few days.
I literally sell my books on Amazon.
Every day.
So, well then, Paul, you're collaborating with an elite at that point. If you sell something on Amazon, you evil alien lizard being you
capitalist pig.
I mean, I get paid, so
it's a beta elite too, but he does have a dominant masculine presence. So there you go.
Well, that's why I liked your response, Mike, because it fit perfectly as a response to this super chat. It's that, yeah, we don't focus on things we can't control. Understanding that there's an elite class out there and they're not helping us, once again, that's good to know. But do you focus on it? And saying, why do you tolerate that? That implies that there's something you could actually control about the elites. Other than your own individual life. You can control the life, you can influence the life of the people around you. You can't necessarily control the outcomes for that. Now, maybe you can. Maybe you're an outlier. Maybe you have a line. Maybe you could have a platform where you could influence. If that's the case, cool. That's an outlier. Most people getting stuck in this mindset, this bad mental model of, what am I going to do about all the elites controlling me and the other people around me? That's the same thing as trying to red pill your friends. You can only teach the willing. You can't teach the unwilling. And when you try to teach the unwilling, you actually make the information bad listed for them. It goes onto their blacklist automatically, whereas as soon as they will do the same filtering that Mike talked about, where you get those subtitles, they will get their own bad subtitles that will say, no, ignore this person. What they're saying is bullshit because this other person tried to force me this other person tried to force me. These people clearly don't have truth if they have to force it down other people's throats. That's the same thing that the left is dealing with right now, is people are realizing the shit's being forced down their throat with ads like the one at the beginning, and they're going like, it's kind of leaving a bad taste in my mouth, and I seem to be joking a little bit. Like, I don't think I can keep doing this. And that's the key thing. You have to select what you're taking in with your mental bandwidth.
I like what Charles said because it touches on what I touched on earlier about the philosophers. You know, one of the things they talked about is the slave and the master mentality. That's definitely Nietzsche and Schopenhauer. That's a big deal. If you guys get a chance, read about that. That is the way to not tolerate the elite. And this is something that you're born into. You're born into having that slave mentality. Andrew Tate got famous talking about the slave mind. But where did it come from? Not so much the red pill, but the red pill has tenets in there. And Tarl just hit on it really good. But if you guys really want to delve into that, it'd be a completely separate episode. But it would be on those German philosophers that really isolated it and decided how their narrative could change that pretty simply. So look at there if you want to deal with the elites.
So Pi, here's what I would say, and we're not hating on you, Pi. We're just asking that maybe you should think about like maybe the way you're looking at things. Here's the way I look at it. Can I make Jeff Bezos go broke by boycotting Amazon? No. Here's what I can do. If I have to buy like an electric toothbrush and the only place to get it is Amazon, I just go, fine, okay, fine. I'll get my electric toothbrush on Amazon. But don't go on Amazon and buy a bunch of dumb shit you don't need. Don't buy a bunch of stupid shit that's just going to sit on a shelf and cost a bunch of money and nothing against your Lego Huds, but basically,
chill over there.
but basically, don't give them any more money than you absolutely have to. Not because it will put a dent in their pocketbook and reduce their influence, but because then you will have more money to do more important and better things with that money rather than giving it to Jeff Bezos. So don't buy dumb shit you don't need. And then
this is a good. I don't mean to cut you off, Michael.
It's okay. It's fine. But and then apply that everywhere in life. Do you need Oreo cookies? No. Then don't give Nabisco, a woke DEI company that hates you, a bunch of money by buying Oreos. And then just rinse and repeat over and over and over again throughout your entire life. The next thing you'll know it, you'll have an extra $1,000 in the bank at the end of every month.
It's also called voting with your dollar.
Yes.
And
That's a
live
very
your
good
best life and make friends with these elite people and keep
Mike,
their confidence.
You're touching a very good point. You're touching a very good point. Like there was an ad by Gillette a few years ago. Men can do better, whatever that was. And from that day on, I never bought Gillette. But it's interesting that they had the impudence, the arrogance of having an anti-dude ad, simply on the fact that actually the people who purchase, the consumers are, and they rightfully assessed it, consumers are women. People who buy razors for guys are actually women. So they targeted an ad towards women. And the best way to get their attention is you hit where it hurts. You hit their wallet. Example, Disney. They have woke shit after woke shit after woke shit. I mean, come on. And now they're scrambling like, wait a minute. And now they're blaming. They're at the final stage, like where they blame the consumers. They blame the consumers for not liking the product. You're not woke enough.
Yeah,
well,
Laurent, even worse. Like they just announced this week, they have their first transgendered clone trooper now.
Oh, no, they didn't.
It's been there for 2 years. We just now found it. That's the slight distinction there.
George Lucas will be able to buy the Star Wars franchise for $1 when everything is over.
But I want to hop in, and just before I lose everything in my mind, because we were following a pretty good flow there. And one thing I would argue with you against, Mike, on not buying stuff on Amazon or only buying the bare necessities that you need. You could also be like a lot of members of this panel, and you could use the tools to sell books or to sell other things. Use it to make money. And I think that that's the biggest thing when it comes to, as we're talking about a whole bunch of different things here. But when you adopt that red pill praxeology, you have the understanding and you see the world for what it is, then, okay, these are the rules of the world. Maybe they're not ideal for you or how you would want them to be, but you know the rules. So now you can navigate those rules into creating whatever type of world you want to make. Now, when I think back to what is and this is what I thought of at the very beginning, what is the most important thing? And Thor hit on it. We've also hit on it as we're going around. Actions speak louder than words. Look at what people do, not what they say. Now, to pull it back to the election, this was the very moment that I was like, if anybody else does not see this, then I really am losing faith in the American people. And what that was how Kamala Harris was marked and titled the border czar. She was in charge of the border. And then 3.5 years later, when she's called border czar, then across the media, they're all saying she never was the border czar. She never was the border czar. And then if you actually go back 3.5 years to the different things that they were doing on the news and media, they literally call her the border czar. That is like gaslighting like crazy. And so when you see that, I think that the red pill equips you with being able to see those types of things a lot more clearly. Let's flip that around. So instead of her calling herself border czar and then she's not border czar and you're wrong for calling her border czar. Now, let's say you're dating a girl, you start dating a girl, and she says that she's a nurse, and you're seeing her for a couple of years, and then maybe it's not like super frequently, you're not getting hyper entwined, but then you ask her something about her job as a nurse, And then she says, well, what are you talking? I've never been a nurse. It's like, what is going on here? So I think that Red Pill gives you, when you understand all of it, it gives you that lens. That's why They Live is such an amazing movie for this. I'm so glad you guys reminded me about that because I haven't seen it in a couple of years. So I'm definitely watching that tonight to see the world for what it actually is and then move accordingly. It's seeing the rules and then how you act afterwards. That's what it's all about.
Because
great.
Because
that's a perfect analogy, Huds. I mean, what the red pill does for you once you move past the phases of acceptance, anger, because it's not what you thought it was, and you have that glimpse of objective reality with relationships, those tools move right into the rest of your life. And you start seeing things that you haven't before, hence the glasses. I got one that can see, and it changes everything for you. And a lot of the things that would get you into action, they don't bother you anymore.
Yep.
That's the best part.
Well, and I know we're going to do the mid-roll here real quick, but Huds, you just reminded me of something. Guys, think about this for a second. Imagine a different version of the film They Live, for those who have seen it. In real life, if we tried to do what the star of the movie did, what would happen? We'd get 86'd by the police, by the government. We'd be Dunskies, right? What if there was a different version of the film They Live, and instead of doing what he did in that film, he was like, oh, interesting. And then he started crafting his new life to live around the rules that he could see, and so that he could turn a profit, so that he can raise a family outside of the influence of all this garbage. You see where we're going with this?
Will to power.
Yeah. So it's a good movie because of the ending, and so we feel satisfied when we watch a fictional story of a guy kicking ass and taking out all the aliens that are controlling society. Well, what if he did it differently, only instead of killing aliens, which look like people, he did it to become rich. He used his knowledge of the paradigm to become rich.
And then woke everybody up a piece at a time, like wildfire. Ideas are like wildfire, you know?
Yep. Ideas are bulletproof. But AJ, I wanted to get your final thoughts on this question, and then we're going to do the mid-roll. Well, we got a super chat too.
Cool.
This one's a little difficult for me to answer because on this subject in particular, like I am a registered libertarian. I'm not voting this year. But it's like I already have a high dislike for authoritarian governments. So like I already saw this stuff coming without being red pilled, before I was even red pilled.
I'm with you, AJ.
So
AJ, you seem very tired. Like tired of life. That's where I was a couple weeks ago.
Released last night. He's been busy.
I'm just tired, and like Thor, I talked to Thor last night about something, so it's kind of today.
Your adrenaline has been exhausted.
Yeah.
AJ is the wraith for today. Just like, who cares?
Yeah, fair enough. I'm feeling a little bit myself, but I've been working all week, but
yeah,
we're all here.
Books out.
And, yep, I'm gonna run one of the ads we have up here. I'm sure we'll get one for you, AJ, at some point. If we don't have one already, I didn't see one in here.
No, we don't have one yet. I'm gonna probably work with Glenn on making one.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna run this. Hang tight.
Have you ever felt like something's holding you back in your relationships? Like you're always on the back foot, struggling to connect with women? You're not alone. Many men are taught to be weak, to defer, to play small around women by their upbringing, by society, by the very world that shaped them. But what if you could break free from the invisible chains that have held you back? What if you could rewrite the script, reprogram the paradigm that's been running your life? This is your chance to step into the man you were always meant to be. In The Essential Skills of a Masculine Presence, Psychology Paradigm by Paul Bauer, the first book in R.P. Thor's groundbreaking series, you'll learn how to understand and transform the paradigms that have shaped your life. You'll discover how to develop a dominant masculine presence, one that commands respect, inspires trust, and brings fulfillment to your relationships. Don't wait for life to change on its own. Take control. Order your copy of The Essential Skills of a Masculine Presence Psychology Paradigm now on Amazon. Available in hardcover, paperback, or on Kindle. This is more than a book. It's your roadmap to a life of purpose, strength, and success. Make the decision today. Reprogram your life and step into the man you were meant to be. Guys, it just dropped on Audible too. It just dropped on Audible yesterday. So if you prefer listening to audiobooks, like I'm the same way. It takes me forever to sit down, especially a book this thick, to sit down on the couch and make time to read it. It takes me forever to do that. So I much rather listen to things on audio so that when I'm at the gym, when I'm out jogging, when I'm driving in my car, it's just effortless learning. And so now it's available. You can get it on Audible right now. If you have an Audible subscription, you can listen to it for free.
Love it.
Thank you. All right, we got another super chat here, and I do want to say we encourage disagreement here. So as long as it's done respectfully, and I think goober is a nice, respectful insult. It comes from an old word meaning peanut. So I don't know who you're calling a peanut, but we appreciate the contribution to the Dragonship. The rising tide raises all ships. So $5 from Pi. You, goober, you'll make an alternate society like the Czechs of the Soviet Union. Stay quiet and influence here and there. Well,
there's
and there is, but
one way of doing it.
To make a society, you need a lot of other people on your program. Now, we've seen that a few times here in the United States. Like there are the Amish, the Quaker descendants, like out in Pennsylvania, Huds. I'm sure you've probably seen them. And then hippie communes, Thor. I'm sure you probably run into a hippie commune or two out in California where they just kind of do their own thing and off in some corner of the wilderness. But to build a society, Pi, you are looking at many, many people. I would call a commune a society. So the hippies that live off in the woods, I wouldn't necessarily call that a society. Maybe the Quakers and the Amish, because their population is large enough and they have a uniform culture. I would say the Amish would be a big enough size that I would call it a society, but they still operate within our laws and our systems. All those Amish people, they still have social security numbers.
So what he's talking about here is actually really interesting, and it feeds right into our title, which is the Red Pill is the shield wall against tyranny, because people start to see that what we have put out there is much larger than intersexual dynamics at its core. And when they start using those principles and using it to validate their political positions, it starts to spread. Guys start picking up the shield and joining the wall, and this starts to spread. You've seen this with certain political parties, and it's one reason they call us a movement, because we get traction and we're growing. So, it must be a movement. Not ideologically, but political parties definitely use that tactic, to get the grassroots movement going. And then all of a sudden you have political change and society changes because of it. It's happened to us. It happened to us from the 50s to the 60s, the free love. Societies changed in certain ways, and I understand that the Czechs have had huge influence in Soviet Russia, which is an interesting way to do it. It's a rather nonviolent way, but there are bumps along the way for sure. I think there's a parallel there that could be made with the shield wall.
And I do have a very rigid definition of that kind of freedom that Pi is talking about. In my opinion, if you have a social security number, you're not free.
Yeah, you're part of the system, and it's like the guys that try to quote leave the manosphere. It's like that once again shows they don't understand the words they're using. The manosphere is just a placeholder term to describe guys or people that make content revolving around, the praxeology of the red pill and the difficulties of men in today's society, right? That they deal with the dating marketplace and whatnot. And a lot of people, when they come into the space, like Thor said, they are like, they're just talking about dating and women and stuff like that. And then they come in and they find out, the praxeology applies to all human behavior and observations of all human conduct. And this includes male-to-male conduct, say in business. Oh, a lot of the red pill principles apply when you're observing a business transaction, right? Or a business deal. A lot of the same factors are going to play into, like you got to take into account, hey, does the guy that you're doing this business deal with, does he have frame in his relationship? Is he on drugs or alcohol? Right? Does he have something that is influencing his decision-making process, either chemically or emotionally? Right? So as a woman is the one wearing their pants in the relationship, you know that you probably don't want to do business with that man because you're technically doing business middlemaning through him to his wife.
Mm-hmm.
So all your decisions are going to be filtered through that context, that you're going to have to expect him to defer to his wife, relay that information back to her, get a decision, then come back to you. Probably going to get a no because she's too scared to take risks and whatnot. And she's not getting the information directly from the source. So she's automatically going to be suspect of it. You can't do business with a man like that because of those red pill praxeology issues that you run into with intersexual dynamics in his relationship. It doesn't even apply to your relationship, but it by extension applies to your relationship in business with that man. And that's where a lot of the liars out there don't want you to ask those questions, don't want you to poke and prod and look at all those details, because what do liars function on? A house of cards that's made of lies. And if any one of those lies gets found out, the whole thing can come crashing down. They know this. And it's difficult to maintain. So what do they want to do? They always want to discourage people from asking too many questions. Oh, you're one of the ones that I've gotten many, many times over the years when I point things out. Oh, you're overthinking that.
Another thing I want to just add about just the concept of the manosphere as a whole is that term itself was actually created by feminists to lump us all together as creators and judge us by our worst actors. So that term itself isn't actually an endearing term. It was created to sort of marginalize us as content creators in the men's space by itself. We've sort of just owned that, though. It's kind of like, black people have, turned the N-word to their advantage, and they just, removed the hard R and just used the A at the end, and they now own that word.
The Manospherians.
Yeah.
It's like Spartans. We're the Manospherians.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
what is your profession?
How?
YouTube.
but all of you guys in the chat, watching and here on this panel, all of us have had that one friend at least once where we can't even go out and have a beer with the guy because he says, all right, hang on, let me check with my wife. Like, are you fucking kidding me? You can't take 20 minutes and have one beer without getting permission from your woman who's supposed to be on your program, who's supposed to be following you. And so, like what Viking was saying, you're in business with a guy, you're running like a machining company. Hey, dude, we need a new CNC machine. It's going to cost $100,000. Here's my $50,000. I need you to put in $50,000 for this machine. Let me check with the wife. Wife said no. Now your business doesn't get that new CNC machine that you need to secure bigger and better contracts with more lucrative clients, all because she doesn't want to spend $50,000 when he can afford it easily and he wants to go all in on it.
I want to add.
There's levels to this. There's levels to this, though. Like, I move as a unit with my girl. So, like, even if I'm going to make a decision, I still want to run things by her. That doesn't make me weak. And I'm not going to change my mind if I know it's a good business decision. So I think there's a little bit of it's not black and white.
Yeah,
we're not talking about guys like you, Huds.
You don't put the final decision on her.
I want to add to that, though, right? So when I'm talking to guys, right, I have one-on-one clarity calls with men. Three of the biggest objections I'll see are, your prices are too much, like it's too expensive, right? It will be, I have to talk to my partner, right? Or I have to think about it. Those are usually, it's like one of those three. The thing is if he has to talk it over with his partner, that's one of the biggest reasons why you're in a fucking dead bedroom in the first place, because you can't make your own fucking decisions. You can't set the tone and lead in your own relationship. You have to get permission from mommy first. That's a big problem. That's one of the reasons why you are where you're at. And so what are you going to do about that? When is the pain of your current situation going to be so much that you're willing to go, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to move forward, I'm going to fix this, I'm going to finally get out of this, I'm going to finally put this behind me? You know, that's a big thing a lot of guys don't think about.
Well, and a nuanced example that I even thought of when Mike was saying that is like, if the guy is texting his wife to get permission, that's a red flag. But if he just says, hey, I just got to text my wife, let her know I'm going to be running a bit late tonight because I'm going to go have drinks with my friend, once again, you're still letting her know and you're communicating, but you're doing it from your decision making rather than her decision making, and you're not deferring. That's the key nuance, is that if you're deferring to your wife and she gets the final say, you don't have the pants in the relationship, and she's going to treat you like a little boy rather than a man.
Yep.
Thank you, Tarl. That's exactly what I was trying to get across. You did much better.
That's the distinction: asking for her permission versus being considerate and letting her know.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, I'm paying for this program. Just want to give you a heads up. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're like, oh, that's a lot of money, I better ask for permission.
Well, and the woman in that kind of relationship is always going to say no because he's making himself better. And so that we can't be having that, right? Yeah. But she'll want to remodel the kitchen for $20,000.
Right. Yeah.
That goes back to the whole captain first officer model right there. Like,
most guys aren't in that model. They're in the, oh no, she's my equal captain. We're two captains driving the ship, and we're co-captaining, and I can't, go left full rudder without getting her, her input first. Like, there's a fucking rock in front of you. There's a big fucking iceberg in front of you. You can't just make that decision right now to go left full rudder. No, you got to get her permission. You got to go wait for her.
Dude, I imagine right now that on the Titanic, if they had like a wife there, or like a woman there's like in charge, it's like, guys, there's like iceberg straight ahead. All right, let me schedule a meeting. Let's come together and let's talk about our best options right now.
Actually, okay, no, you. All right, Laurent, you go, then I go.
You know what they say when you're aboard a vessel. You know what they say, children and women first, so that the guys can stay back and think.
Yeah, men can actually come up with a solution
and take action.
But no, this is interesting because what happened recently, did you guys hear the story about the New Zealand lesbian female naval officer who was busy filling out a survey online and sank her destroyer while they were doing some coral reef documentation? So I won't go into the whole story. You can look it up. It's fairly recent. I think it's 1 week old. Basically, woman captain sank her own ship. All right. And then we had another one prior where it was a stealth vessel and a naval officer, again, another woman, put a Starlink on it on a stealth vessel. Now, so they've made these mistakes, and that got me thinking, Huds, when you said what you said earlier, like, oh, what if there was a co-captain on the Titanic? So we've got these two situations here with these two ships. One of them sunk by a female captain because she was busy doing whatever. But when was the last time incompetence sunk a ship and the ship was captained by a man? It was I forget the full name of the ship. It was like the Costa Concordia. It was an Italian cruise ship. Get this. Yes, it was captained by a man, but guess what? His girlfriend was on the bridge with him. And she was wearing skimpy dresses and strutting around with her ass hanging out and distracting the bridge crew, and he was screwing off his shift to go bang his girlfriend back at his cabin and then doing what she wants. And he did the fly by the shore. That's where he basically takes the ship really, really close to shore and honks the horn really loud to like show off. He did that to impress her because she was there. So she wasn't even the captain, but by even having a woman there distracted a man enough, he sunk a cruise ship.
Unbelievable. Well, one last thing I want to say on this New Zealand thing. I'm looking at it right now. This sinking was the first loss by a New Zealand Navy vessel since World War II.
And it's 20% of their fleet because they only have 5 ships because it's New Zealand.
Just throw a little wrench in there, Mike.
Oh, well, take it easy, man. I'm Kiwi here.
Yeah.
I'm a New Zealander as well, so take it.
Yes, AJ.
To throw a little wrench in there, there was the USS Greenville in the early 2000s that was destroying stuff left and right.
The USS Greenville. Refresh my memory.
It's a 688, so Los Angeles class submarine.
Mhm.
They had some congressmen on board. They're doing some submerging and stuff, doing angles and angles. And the congressmen wanted to do what they call an EMBT blow, and that's like where you see in the movies the submarine broaches the water and crashes down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they go to PD, periscope depth. They look around. Okay, we got no one around us. 2 hours, they go back down. 2 hours later, like, all right, we're gonna do the EMBT. Fire control's not looking. Sonar's not doing their thing. They do an EMBT right through a Japanese fishing vessel. Sinks it, kills 9 guys.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to what he was talking about, is that when guys are acting on emotion, trying to impress rather than acting in accordance with survival, you end up doing dumb things, taking dumb risks that are too much. Because once again, there's a level of risk tolerance in the middle, right? Women tend to be very risk averse, whereas men tend to be less risk averse because they have a higher tolerance for risk. But that needs to be tailored in reason. This is why when we used to get lots of guys in the Fresh and Fit free Discord complaining that we'd have women in there. But I always loved having the women in there, because this is one of the things that can out a lot of guys that sit there and run their mouth and talk a really good game. But then you see how they act when there's actually a woman in the room, and you see if they can maintain focus or if they start trying to fucking simp for her without even realizing they simp. And hundreds of guys would sit there and they'd be given all this free attention. Myron sits there and tells them, don't give women free attention. And then as soon as they see 1 or 2 girls in the general chat in the Discord, all of a sudden they're asking her questions. They're chatting with her. They think they're running game. They're getting made fun of by other people, going like,
get your IG. Give me your IG. Give me your IG.
The other girls start making fun of them because they're simping, and they're just like, I don't understand. I'm just trying to have a conversation here. And it's just like, because
that's
you're sitting there.
That's one of the biggest reasons why women ruin male spaces, because women fuck up the dynamic.
Well, see, that's the thing. When these guys get a woman walk out in front of them, you see that some guys know to hold the shield wall still, right? Understand that you need to hold the line, but some guys are mentally weak, don't understand, even if they're lying and claiming they understand, and then they drop what they're doing for the first piece of tail that walks by. They just drop what they're doing, tongue hanging out of their mouth, and they literally don't know how to act. They can learn. See, this is where groups of guys shaming other motherfuckers, hey, straighten up, act right. You slap that tongue back in your mouth, bro. Like, you're making yourself look like a fucking dumbass. That's not going to impress the girls. And it's the same thing when you're dealing with a bunch of guys. You see these lower value guys trying to impress, this is where yes men come from. And they're trying to impress, and once again, their expectations are not aligned with reality, and they think they're going to get something out of an action that they're not actually going to get, and they're doing it based on an emotion that they now backwards rationalize, and they're not doing their due diligence. That's going to lead you into trouble all the time. Thor and I can both personally speak to that, having to go through severe physical trauma because of a decision that was put on us where we had to double check something and do it either a more painful but right way, or do it an easier way. And the easier way led to way more pain than the other discomfort we would have experienced. That's a harsh lesson to learn, but once you know, you can't unsee it. Hey, I'm going to take the extra little bit of discomfort so that way I don't have to experience an insane amount of discomfort.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that we definitely need to maintain the male space and male leadership, or we will easily abdicate it. I mean, the white knighting is amazing. We all had that friend that as soon as the girls are around, or even if you have your spouse around, they start acting different and they start trying to muscle in, and then they play dumb. We can open a space for women that want to engage here. I think that's doable, but it needs to be led properly.
Yep.
You also got that situation where you have that friend that disappears when they see that nice piece of tail. And then however long, 6 months to a couple years later, they come back. Man, she's so mean. It's like, well, where the fuck were you?
Yeah, you lose your friend and you only get your friend back after she dumps him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Speaking of male space, we got some super chats here. Steve the Sandman with the $10 super chat. To paraphrase, Thor and Paul, it is important for a man to just own his space. And if that is the manosphere, then so be it.
I love it. We should do the profession right now for the Manospherians. I will do the call and you guys do the chant. Are you ready? You guys know what the chant is, right? Okay. So, Manospherians, what is our profession?
YouTube! 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 A very apropos super chat from Julian, the $2. Thank you very much for the support. That was perfectly timed, both of you. We appreciate you.
Yep. All right, and so going to the final question that we had on the docket today for this topic is, how does the concept of the red pill align with historical examples of individuals or movements resisting tyranny by understanding universal, uncomfortable truths, and what lessons can we draw from them? Thor had some stuff for this, I believe, and he already discussed some of it a little bit, but is there something more you wanted to expound on?
I got to get to my notes. So you want to start a reverse around the horn on that?
Yeah, go ahead. We'll start with you, Paul.
What was the question again?
Historical concepts of individuals or movements resisting tyranny by understanding universal uncomfortable truths, and what lessons can we draw from them?
Like let's say,
like the founding fathers.
Like the United States, right? The United States.
Yeah, like the founding fathers.
The founding fathers, they realized that they were getting screwed over by England. They were getting taxed, but they had no representation. They basically didn't have a leg to stand on. They couldn't go to the king and say, "Hey, why are you taxing us so much?" And they decided, "Hey, enough's enough, man. Like, we don't need those guys. We can do this ourselves. We could do it better. We could form a better form of government. We can look at all sorts of previous governments throughout history and take what worked and leave what didn't. We could put protections in place, because every government in the history of ever has always become tyrannical at some point. So we need to put some checks and balances in here. Let's learn from this about how the real world works, and let's limit the government's power and actually create the first real free society. Let's do that, right? That's they basically took what was useful, what worked and what didn't, and they created the greatest nation the world's ever known.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, I got some notes here. I've already kind of mentioned some of the philosophers from the Greeks all the way to the late German philosophers that are out there. I mean, even Alan Watt in some of his stuff was quite red pill. And so if you're looking for parallels to this, I have to point to these philosophies, because they all draw pieces of, well, let's take, for example, realism. A big part of the red pill is realism. Hey, what's real? What actually works? We exchange notes, right? Did this work? Let's go field test it. That's a big part of the scientific method, supposedly, right? We study patterns in human interactions. Who else did that? Well, all those philosophers did. Schopenhauer had a particular take on females that was pretty harsh red pill, and accepted the darkness in the human heart. So did Nietzsche, with his view on empirical observation over ideals, right? And the moral assignments of the philosophy. I think that the red pill at its core is like that, and it's amoral. And when we offer these descriptions, they're not necessarily descriptions, they're observations. And because there's observations doesn't mean we have to fix them. We can just acknowledge them. We don't have to write prescriptions for these. There's many different approaches to skinning a cat. They say what? There's 9 different ways, or many different ways. So I think they all could be applied throughout history. You can find, red pill philosophies, ideologies. Does the Bible have some red pill stuff in it? Sure it does. Anytime there's interactions with behavior, and you consider behavior to be intentional, and you watch what they're saying about behavior between people, you're going to find some truth. And you're going to find that truth that you can test in the real world. And if it's repeatable and it works, there you go. That's the premise of the red pill. So in history, that's kind of what I was really kind of looked at, is those philosophers and the philosophies that they created, trying to, make something better than the Eastern and Western, or combine the Eastern and Western philosophies. I mean, they reach into existentialism. I think there's a lot there you could use, but they're not complete. Is the red pill a philosophy? No, I don't think that it is. So if you're looking for something in history that parallels red pill, they have a lot of pieces, but they're not the praxeology that the modern red pill is, tool set, so to speak.
I have a very recent example, if I may here. Let's see, share application window. I present to you the new El Salvador prison system. So this was a country where the murder rate was out of control, and the leadership, so this wasn't like an oppressed people rising up against an oppressive government. This is the government electing a new president or prime minister and him going, you know what? Fuck this shit. We're going to throw these guys in cages like the animals they are. So to put things in perspective, all these half-naked men here, they have their heads shaved, and they're running around in their underwear. That's what they wear in prison. No jumpsuits, underwear, all the time. So you can't hide anything. These men are so horrible. One of the most famous things they do is they play soccer with human heads. That's how terrible these men are. And so the government decided, hey, you know what? We're going to arrest all of you at once in like a 3-day span and throw you into a massive cage like animals. And what has happened? The murder rate in the country
vanished.
Has gone down. Now, as you can see, they still have other things to worry about. Let's make no mistake here. El Salvador is not a great country, but look at that homicide rate ever since that new leader took charge of the situation and said no to this bullshit.
Wait, you mean he didn't try to ban the guns and ban the knives, and he took the killers off the street? Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Took the direct route rather than the namby-pamby indirect route. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's a very recent example within the past 4 years.
So he banned the murderers, not the weapon, not the tools.
Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah.
Funny how that works. And then what happened to the murder rate? Oh, it goes down. Shocking. All right. Laurent, do you have anything on that topic of historical examples that you'd like to share?
It's interesting that you mentioned this country, El Salvador. Bukele is actually the guy is from Lebanese origin and is a second generation. I hear Laurent went to El Salvador after someone scratched his car. Yes. I went with my buddy Chuck Norris. So, yeah. Historical precedents about this. This is how revolution start, basically. And talking about the red pill, I was thinking about something, the tipping point. And the best tipping point for men in the Western Hemisphere and all around the world, it's the same here I am, here in Japan, is you're going through a divorce and there's no faster way to get red pill than a divorce. So men are waking up. And when men start to wake up, over time, the system will collapse. It's meant to collapse. It will collapse. It will take time. It take time for the pendulum to swing, because once you go through a divorce, there's no faster way to get red pill, and you can't go back to you can't put the toothpaste in the tube again. So we'll get there, but it'll take time. It'll take a lot of pain, and it'll crumble. But it will work eventually. That's my belief. So until then, what can we do? Enjoy the decline, maintain sovereignty, autonomy, and limit the pollution from mainstream media.
Yep, control your mental diet the same way you should control your physical diet, and that's where a lot of people I see messing up. Even with that I advocate for all the time. That was one of the best things that helped me. Like for instance, the having an Audible account. I've been able to read a lot of audiobooks by just listening at 1.5 or 1.6 speed, so I can take in that information way faster. My brain can keep up with it. And I can do it while I'm doing other things, and maybe I'm not getting as pure a result. But once again, that's where I would do rinse and repeat, get reps in, listen to the book again. And because I'm listening to it quickly while I'm doing other things, not only am I ingraining the information truly into my head, but I'm also putting that information in my head while I'm being effective in real life, while I'm working, while I'm accomplishing other things. So I'm entwining those concepts in my brain, rooted to a point where I'm being grounded in reality. That's where a lot of people get fucked up in this space, is that I don't kind of view it as like a pendulum. I view it as bubbles, right? The life is like a series of bubbles that keep popping and then more form when one pops. And that seems to be applicable to a lot of these concepts, because you see like the different spaces, different information bubbles, they blow up then and eventually sometimes overexpand and pop. And some bubbles are bigger than other bubbles, and some don't pop and they balloon up really big, but others would just pop really quickly and then another one forms. But it's this constant bubbling that's going on with, the conflict of life and ideas. So that's what I kind of see. And that's why I like that we're talking about the historical examples, because those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And the thing is that at some point we should be discarding certain things that don't work while maintaining the things that actually do. And that's more or less the praxeology. Hey, the scientific essence of that branch of philosophy is, hey, let's base this shit in reality, aka what somebody said, common sense. That's why I say I went from being idealistically optimistic to being realistically optimistic. So I still think I can, but I'm going to figure out how before I foolishly try. So going on to going around the horn, let's see, Mike, what did you have for some historical examples?
I just did it, the El Salvador prison system.
Okay, my bad. We'll go to Huds next. That's right.
I don't really have anything. I was thinking of the same exact thing of when we came to America. Like, that's what I was thinking about. Like, I really like that example from Paul. Like, we can do it better, so let's do it better.
Yep. AJ, you got any examples you want to throw out there?
You'd even argue going the one of the inspirations to our founding documents, the Magna Carta itself, because you had all those noblemen being like, yo, king, our peasants are getting a little upset at us and you need to cut this shit out, and now you have equal laws to follow as well.
Yeah. Well, and for me, given another example that I can think of going back to American history, is the choice that Abraham Lincoln made to fight slavery and go to civil war over that.
Oh my God, dude, that is what I was gonna say, but I wasn't sure if that was a good example or not. I love that.
Well, no, that's a good example, because the thing is that despite all the, just like with the founding fathers, there's a lot of other extenuating circumstances and things that went on that we're kind of glossing over. But for the sake of time, the idea that I saw when I watched documentaries about like the letters that Abraham wrote and stuff like that, and how he came to that conclusion, was that he made the observation as an autodidact, somebody who was self-taught to be a lawyer. He did go to school for it, but when he was growing up, he was homeschooled. He had nothing but books, like me growing up. So I kind of relate to him on that. And he taught himself. And he also noticed that some of the black slaves that were taught things could learn, even though he was told his whole life they can't learn. They're too stupid to learn. They can't learn. And he said, it strikes me, and I'm paraphrasing obviously, but in one of the letters that he wrote, he said something to the effect, I believe, of that it struck him as, kind of a, more or less a hypocrisy that we would have this whole society founded on freedom while we were indenturing people into slavery that could learn based on his observation. So that was the red pill truth, the reality that they could in fact learn if they were afforded the opportunity to learn, and that the reason why they were not capable the same way that we were as the white folks was simply because they were being deprived educational opportunities and forced to just do labor instead. And when they were afforded those opportunities, not all, but many of them actually jumped on it and took in the knowledge and were like, hey, now I can actually speak better. Hey, now I can actually write and read and actually communicate more and learn more. And human beings are naturally curious. When we learn more stuff and it actually works, we tend to want to learn more. And so that was the realization that the red pill truth that Abraham Lincoln came to, is that we can't have a free nation founded and functioning on this fundamental hypocrisy.
I want to speak to that because, my friend Nick here says he didn't go to war for that. I'm going to say something a little different, not so much, because I think what Lincoln was fixing to do, having had this in my mind for a while, is, he was a politician. He was a smart one. Now, he did recognize the problems with the slave master mentality. And could he go to war directly over that? He could make some noise over that and it would cause a stir. but he also knew there was enough investment in the North in utilizing that slave labor force that would be an economic hardship. But you know what he could do? Because he eventually quickly adopted the freedom of the slaves, but what he adopted was the economic realities of what the South secession was all about. And that cost the North quite a bit. And that was going to cost them money. So when you look at the actual politics, he was able to rally the North to go to war because of what they were doing with their tariffs and their sanctions. That was really what they voted to go to war against. And then quickly thereafter, which they always do in war, is they make it a moral war, which I believe he probably had that in his heart. But if you're looking at the overall reality of it, he was a shrewd politician, very shrewd, and knew he probably couldn't get a war based on that. But when it came to the economics of the investments of the people he was going to convince to go to war and lose their economic environment, he had to make it to where it was worse to have the Confederacy do their tariffs and win under the states' rights. So when you look at it under that lens, which is, I think it's a red pill lens of objective reality, it's a little bit different. He may have held all that in his heart, and his writings indicated he did, but he was smart about how he went about it.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like, that was like the short-term thinking that he was thinking about in terms of the economic survival of the country. But what I was talking about with the letters where he was writing about the slavery and stuff like that is that he was making honest observations about other human beings that were contradicted by the society. And so what his opinions on it, going like, even being willing to talk to slaves and stuff like that at the time was considered taboo, right? Having a IQ conversation with somebody that's supposed to be less than human, according to society, that would be like you talking to your dog, in their opinion, right? And people would view that as like insane based on the societal perception. But he's looking at it going like, yeah, but these people can learn. And in the long term for the country, in addition to all these financial things, this is also going to be a problem in the long-term future because we're founded on the idea of freedom. And if these people can, in fact, learn, they will revolt just like we did. So it was one of those things where, like I said, he took in all the truth that he could at the time, and that was part of his decision-making process. And that's the example that I found is interesting. I know it wasn't the main reason why they went to war and why we had the Civil War and all that, but for me, looking at the history of it and noting that little bit, that tidbit of information in the documentaries that I saw, I thought that was an intriguing example on this topic, is that that was recognizing a truth that society didn't recognize as a truth at the time.
Because what he was acknowledging, you have to
use lateral thinking in order to get the goal accomplished, and I think that played a role in it. And saying both of those is true,
Yes, because he was factoring in, okay, if we outlaw slavery and we win this war, there's going to be less cotton coming into the North for our clothes and stuff like that because they won't have slaves. So that means they're not going to. The plantations won't be as large, and the cotton will be more expensive, and there'll be less of it. But which would we rather have? Less cotton or no cotton? Less tobacco or no tobacco at all? So he made the call.
Yeah, and once the war started, it was easy to go ahead and reframe it, morale, and get what he actually wanted, and which was actually better for everybody. With a lot of hardship, there was a lot of embracing, no pun intended, of our human darkness to get there.
Yep. All right. Well, we've said a lot on that today. I think that kind of covers it. That covers all the main questions. We kind of bled into like 3 and 4 quite fluidly, which is what I figured. Panel's always on point with these things, so I love it. But let's go around the horn. Let's start with you, Paul. Like, what do you got going on? Where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on the podcast, the Come On Man podcast. As you guys probably know, I do have this book out, The Essential Skills of a Masculine Presence Psychology Paradigm. It did just drop on Audible yesterday. I've been dropping a link in the chat here. Let me drop it again for you guys that like listening to audiobooks. Other than that, when you guys are done going through this book, okay, near the end of this book, I invite you to reread this book. Not one time, not 2 times, but at least 10 to 15 times. That's where Audible will help. Look, I don't think that link copied.
Ibble.com.
There we go. Is this better? Did that work?
There we go.
Son of a bitch. Hold on.
It
Still didn't work right. Hold on. It's
didn't?
still not doing it. Yeah,
delay.
there we go. It's got to have the HTTPS. There we go. Sorry for spamming the comments there. But if you guys listen to this, it really will. Just repeating this book multiple times. You know, you can do it at the gym. You can do it when you're driving your car. You can do it on your, when you're out jogging or something like that. Just listening to this book on repeat will start changing your paradigm and help you have a more dominant masculine presence. Now, when you're done reading this book, some guys are going to need more help. They're going to need more one-on-one help. And I'm on a mission. I'm calling it Mission 10 because I'm looking for 10 guys. 10 guys that are having relationship problems right now. Their wife is just a nagging bitch. They try to initiate sex. She rejects them all the time. They just are feeling hopeless. They're feeling like they're roommates, basically glorified roommates, and they don't know how they got there because their wife used to be enthusiastic in the bedroom, and now they're basically second-class citizens and just going through the motions, and they know that they can fix this. So I'm looking for 10 guys like that. Now, if that's you, I want you to book a free call with me. If you go to call.fixdeadbedrooms.com, you can book a free call with me, and I'll give you some clarity. Now, if you're not that guy, we all know guys like that. So if you know a guy like that, I want you to send them to my podcast. It's the Come On Man podcast. I have new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So help me get 10 men that I can help this year.
That's pretty good.
Yes, sir.
All right. Are we moving
All
along?
right. And then, Laurent, you got anything? Where can people find you?
You're muted.
For the time being, I don't have much online presence. I'm working on actually 3 projects at the moment. I'm working on Thor, the book for the series of Thor. And my thing is Introduction to Algorithmic Trading, how to make money working for you while you're sleeping around. And
I love that guy.
Right. So there'll be 3 parts. One is the other game. So how to define a strategy and so on and so forth, the pitfalls to avoid. And this is making money in the market is definitely not what you think it is. It is definitely not what is relayed all around. And the second thing is inner belief, the inner game, like the beliefs is pretty much performance driven. And the most important part is the third one. I mean, the most important part is the foundational one, like the belief that you bring, the subconscious game. So there's outer game, inner game, subconscious game. And this is really... I'm having a ton of fun working on this. Where people can reach me, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me, LinkedIn. I think it's easiest. I'm here to help people. So
hit me up if you need to. I'll send them your way. How about that?
Oh, please.
Talk to me. You guys know me. I'll send them their way if they need to get a hold of you for sure. And don't sell Laurent short. He's a very accomplished man. So I'm looking forward to his book on prosperity.
Yes, that's going to be fun. All right, that was it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Mike.
Well, thank you very much. I want to do something a little different today. For those of you who caught the show last week, I was not here. And that is because my grandmother passed away. She was my last grandparent. And so, even though nobody knows who she is, only I do, I wanted to show 2 pictures of her because I want people to see her. And because that will, in a way, let her live for a moment in someone else's mind other than mine. So I'm going to just share my 2 pictures real quick. So this is my grandmother, Luella Kryline. This was in 1957, I think. That is her father's car. Yeah, she was very tiny. She was very short. I think she was like 4'10". So I don't know how I managed to get so tall. And then my other favorite picture of her that I took, let's see here. That's her with a gun down by the river. So a real firecracker, country gal, shooting guns, drinking whiskey, had the garden, raised 3 sons out on the farm. Just a really, really great gal. So she made it 90 years, And I'm going to tell you guys something. It's a really weird feeling. It's very surreal to go to a cemetery and see your own name on a tombstone. Not my name literally, but my last name, because she and I have the same last name. So that'll do a number on you guys to see your own name on a tombstone. It gets you thinking about a lot of things. So
Yes, sir.
That's my
Yep.
grandmother Luella, and I just wanted to share her with everyone here today.
Honor her, and thank you for doing that and embracing that suffering and sadness. There will be opportunity for you, and you will see her again, my friend. It is a tough thing, I know, and there's even holding a man that's dying is always a tough one too. Yeah, all of it is.
Yeah, it's not easy. I actually had to watch my grandma forget who I was before she passed. So right after I had sang for her the week before that as well, and she said, "I remember you sang for me, but I can't remember what you sang. But thank you." And then the next time I went to see her, she didn't know who the fuck I was. So I can kind of relate. But yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow there. That's real life pill for you there. Mortality. Remember, you're not immortal. Even if you think that there's an afterlife, remember, you're not immortal in life even. So you're not going to be here forever. Do something that people will remember you for. Like Mike said, most people probably won't know who his grandma was. Just like when I talk about my grandfather, most people don't know who my grandfather was, even though he was an accomplished scientist, right? Had a very good military career. And I've been criticized for talking about the lessons that man taught me and crediting him. Just make those ideas yours. Don't talk about your grandpa or your dad. I'm just like, but those are the people that I got the information from. And this is what's lacking in society today, is that we don't take those lessons from our elders, right? Thank you for opening the opportunity for me to talk about this, Mike, is that a lot of people don't listen to their elders. And I'm not saying you have to do everything they say, but my grandfather, once again, one of the things he taught me, even a fool can teach you something, because they've lived a life you haven't lived, and they may know things that you don't know, and it may not be useful to you, and you don't want to spend too much of your time listening to fools, but even a fool can teach you something if you pay attention for those nuggets of wisdom. Even if it's just not doing the same mistake they did, you can still learn from them. So the key thing is learn from everybody, especially your elders, the people that survived for damn near 100 years. They know stuff that you don't know because they lived a much longer life. And if you take that for granted, you might miss out on some nuggets of wisdom that could save your ass in the long run. Like my grandfather always said, never sign a one-sided contract and always read the fine print.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Mike, let me offer you a little bit of a condolence and maybe some hope. What I've discovered in the last couple of years, having the deaths in the families and then actually holding a man that had fallen and is broken and things like that, I arrived at a conclusion for myself based on red pill stuff. Guys, in my opinion, I think that, why do I call myself a god amongst men? We are all a localized manifestation of God. When I say localized, we are a localized consciousness of the greater universe trying to experience itself. Her Earth suit is just a manifestation of the particles coming together of absolutely almost nothing. And then when we leave, the waveform collapses back to the universe. It doesn't mean it's gone. It's still a part. It's like looking at the ocean. You have waves on the top you can see. That's us. Imagine all the depth underneath. It will come back up again and form a wave that you can see and experience for a time. That wave coming across the ocean and then back down into it. That's kind of my viewpoint of it. Oh, bless her heart. See her again in some form or another.
Thank you, Thor.
Yeah, I definitely think that our brains, and as they explore quantum theory and what's going on with this quantum foam, the observer effect, how it actually changes reality at a distance, it actually does it. That means there's something else going on here that we cannot fully comprehend. And we tune into that. And is us tuning into it, this localized version that I am looking right at you, you are me. Some of the Eastern philosophies is there go you, but it's actually me living a different life. So bless her heart, she obviously had a huge impact on you, and I appreciate you doing that.
She made a damn fine rhubarb pie.
Oh man, I haven't had rhubarb pie in a while, but the rhubarb pie I had was on fire. Yeah. All right. Not second to last, Huds. Where can people find you?
Yes, sir. So, final thoughts on this entire thing here, and leading off of what you guys were all saying and what you were presenting, Mike, is leave a legacy. Leave a legacy. Change the world. You have the tools. As Thor was saying, we are all made from God. We all have the ability to be God amongst men, God amongst NPCs. Like realistically,
it actually is.
Yeah, so that's what I think was so important about this show today, and I really, really enjoyed it, because when you understand the red pill praxeology, when you dive into all this stuff, you don't have to go black and white on everything, and you shouldn't, but it gives you the tools to be able to navigate the world. And as we were talking like way earlier in the show, like dealing with the elites or whatever else, understanding the rules of the game allows you to win. That's the whole point. So let's understand the rules and let's win. Now I'm going basically into monk mode for a little bit. I am still working on my book, and with my men's community, Men of Now, we are actually closed. We are full at capacity. So you can still tune into the shows. We're doing them every Tuesday. But we will likely not be reopening for a little while here. So definitely be on the lookout for that, because it's an absolutely fantastic group of men, in the same way that we have the Dragons membership, fantastic group of men. We've got Beer Club, fantastic group of men. It's just a little bit different of a flavor of it. So until then, if you have any questions on really anything, or you want to reach out to me, best way is right there on Instagram. That's all I got.
Book publisher, author, extraordinaire, coming down on extreme adrenaline high.
Oh yeah. I'll talk to you guys backstage about that one. I already talked to Thor about it last night. Book actually released today. I have my author's copies here. I kind of go over this stuff a little bit with dealing with emotional durability in the book. Big things in there. It does get repetitive, but it's about using the observer effect, as Thor calls it. Eckhart Tolle talks about it a little bit as well. I mentioned it a lot in that book. But yeah, that's a
good book.
That's about all I got. Put where to find me in here, and also the link to the book and my link to Thor's affiliate link for Dragons Monthly and his programs.
Yeah, that's a good monthly meeting for sure, guys. AJ's book, he kind of modest right now, but it's in a perfect sequence to come right after Paul's, setting the stage for your mental outlook, and your narrative is going to affect your emotional regulation. Now, emotional regulation leads to a much longer and healthier life and more fulfilled life, definitely. If you're the kind of person that reacts to everything, and you react immediately, and then you stress about it later, and then you do something called perseverating, like, man, I could have done something different. I could have done that. I could have done this. That's not useful. And that's where the red pill really shines. And that's where AJ's book is really, it's really nice. And I appreciate the hard work you put in, AJ. And I do. Thank you. And, just to let everybody know on the book series before we move to the next guy, it's not just AJ. I spoke with Donovan this week, Donovan Sharp, the OG, who actually was on YouTube prior to Rolo and Rich. And, yeah, he actually told me he'd be by the end of the month, he was going to have his book ready to add to the collection. So keep your eye out, guys. Collect them all.
Yep. And you're up next, Thor, or last but not least, and then I'll take us out.
What was that? Okay. Well, I'm just going to paste a free copy of a chapter, which is chapter 4 in my original book, which is a dominant masculine presence. And reason I put that out there is use the code free, all caps, free DMP, is it's on the 7 skills and defining them with real life examples, which includes body language, voice, all of that, influence. It's a different take, but it gives you a real foundation on why these skills of a masculine presence are so important and why you only need to really kind of be above average in about 3 of them, and your life will soar. And I point out some very famous examples of guys that might only have 3, and some guys that have 5. And it's interesting. You probably won't be above average in all of them because it takes years to practice these skills and work them. You make mistakes, you move forward, but is it a prescription? No. It's a guideline. It's stepping stones. It's a guideline of thought so that you can create your own dominant masculine presence. So I just put in the chat a link to that free chapter. I think you'll get a lot out of it. And as soon as if you like it, man, go out there, get Ray's book, get Paul's book, and get Paul's original book because he does a comprehensive job there. And then, take a look at AJ's coming out. I can't wait to get that in my grubby little hands. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yep. And like I said, I'm working on a book myself. I've been a little distracted. I've been having a lot of more opportunities coming up thanks to Thor. I've got a lot of stuff done. I'll actually, I'm promoting my website now. I've got a fully functional website, a merch store, a Discord, all that stuff. So check it out. Got where the merch.
Where's the link, man?
Yep, I posted it. VikingParadigm.com. All my links. Yes. You can find all my socials and everything from that. And going on back to the topic, I'm glad that we did this today because this is something that I always love to talk about. Going back to what you just said a minute ago is that a lot of people are just reactive. Like people want to know who's the NPCs, who's the 80%. Well, they're the people that are just constantly reacting rather than being proactive about their decisions. Free will is a choice. People argue about whether or not free will does or doesn't exist. Here's the red pill truth. Free will is a moment-to-moment choice. Yep. Goes back to even a line from the Harry Potter. There's always a time where you come to a choice between what is right and what is easy. More often than not, the easy solution is the wrong solution. And that's more or less what the red pill praxeology lays out for people. The common sense, hey, if you do the less effort route, you're going to get bad results or less good results. Dumb it down for the people, that need the crayons. It's yes, you need to do things in life to get things in life. If you don't, you got only yourself to blame. And that's where a lot of people want to cope, come up with their own version of the pill, oh, I'm this pill. I'm not like that other pill. The other pill is full of things I don't like. It's yeah, that's the point of the red pill. It's uncomfortable truth. Mm-hmm. Yes, you're a fat ass like that guy in the commercial. Nobody wants to listen to you. As I found out when I was a fat ass, nobody respected me. The loser disrespect is real. Nobody cares about you, man. If you're demonstrating through action, you don't care about yourself. Guys wonder, why do I got to get permission from my wife? Well, it's because you're making her give you permission. You're allowing this to happen because you have no boundaries. You have no standards. You have no free will of your own. You gave it up. You're being an NPC to your wife's whims. If you stop doing that, she's going to like you a lot more because she's going to have to do less mental work that's stressing her out, and she'll actually want to follow you around like a puppy dog then. But that would be perceived by some of those men in that commercial as me being domineering because my woman is kowtowing to me like that, rather than understanding the real truth is that my woman actually wants to do those things. And the reason why no woman wants to do those things with him is because he's a fucking loser. And so for him coping, he's saying, that's domineering for a man to be doing that with a woman, when he doesn't understand that a woman that actually likes you will do that on her own most of the time without you even telling her. And there's a harsh red pill truth that a lot of people don't want to accept, including all those motherfuckers in that commercial. The guy crying at Predator. The one guy that's muscular, he's crying at the end of Predator. Really? Really? At the end of Predator? Really? Come on, man. That shows mental weakness. Any woman that saw that, they're going to be yeah, he's muscular, but I bet he would bitch out in a fight.
You get what
Don't
you
be
pay.
That guy.
You get what you pay for.
Yep. And with that, thank you everybody for tuning in today. You reach out to anybody if you want to get to know more. Get the books. Like Thor said, there's a lot of books coming out. Like I said, mine's going to be on physicality and how that's actually rooted in your mental health. A lot of people underestimate that. Your physical health is your mental health. But get the books, get the information, take it in, and learn. What is my tagline? Learn plus adapt equals win. And you have to do it in that order. Learn, measure twice, and then cut once. Get the lesson, make the change, not excuses, and you will get results. Now, your results may not be exactly what you want, and that's where you rinse and repeat and refine your tactics, aka scientific method. So on that, thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll take you out with an ad, and everybody have a good weekend.
There's some good videos there, buddy, and thank you for hosting. You're an excellent host. I appreciate your prep. It's a pleasure to sail on the dragon ship with you, VikingParadigm. Now,
thank
to
you.
the shield wall.
Shield wall.
Have you ever felt like you're fading into the background? Like the world doesn't want you to stand out, to be strong, to be masculine? You're not imagining it. For decades, society has been reshaping the role of men, leaving many feeling lost and disconnected. It's time to change the narrative. In A Dominant Masculine Presence by R.P. Thor, discover the path to reclaim your strength, your confidence, and your identity as a man. This isn't about fitting into a stereotype. It's about embracing your natural traits and honing them into a powerful presence. Learn the 7 skills that every man needs to lead with authority, read body language, and control his emotions. RP Thor breaks it down with clear examples and practical advice to help you transform your life. It's time to stop apologizing for who you are. It's time to lead with pride and courage. A Dominant Masculine Presence gives you the tools to do just that. Get A Dominant Masculine Presence by R.P. Thor on Amazon or listen on Audible. Don't let society dictate who you should be. Claim your strength and redefine your future.